All right, guys, match 2 of Cephalopod versus Swim. This was so exciting that we were able to go to tiebreakers here for the end of day 1, myself and Boulevard. It was a long day, but it was totally worth it. We always love getting more games to cast to bring you guys some awesome content, and I love it because I'm able to, again, bring you guys more of these videos, more of these sweet matches here on the YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe if you do love this content. My name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works, and match number 2 of Cephalopod versus Swim is coming right up. It looks like we are about to get into game 1, though.
All
So let's
right.
go ahead and head over to game 1, Cephalopod versus Swim. Let's go. Tiebreakers, baby. That's right. You see that round there in the middle? Tiebreakers. We got 2 more rounds, basically. 2 more matches. First, Swim versus Cephalopod, and the winner of this will take on Yatsuba for a spot in day 2.
Yeah, I keep forget. It's so weird because I say that we have 2, maybe 3 hours left, and I forget that I'm not just talking about this best of 3. That we do still have to go play Yatsuba after this.
Yeah. So, and Yatsuba, a great player in his own right as well.
All right, so let's see. No River Shaper this time. It looks like we are actually just going to get sort of a run back of the decks that they started with last time as well, starting with that Nightfall aggro into the TF Swain. No Stygian Onlooker into that parlay this time around. Seth seems to have learned his lesson just floating that 1 mana, but I mean, no great blocks on the side of Swim for this. It's just going to have to eat this 2 damage. You definitely, well, I want to say you definitely don't want to throw a Thermo Beam onto this. I guess if it was elusive, it'd be a little more reasonable. But yeah, I think, just a vanilla 2/3, you're not like, yeah, let me remove that. One of the
So
2 removal spells in my deck.
I'm already watching kind of the turns going back and forth. Do we? I mean, I imagine there's a shot that players actually do play a little bit faster than we're used to. Maybe because they just want to get through it. But I'll be curious to see how much thought goes into every turn moving through this match here. But we do have the Solari Soldier coming down for Cephalopod on a defensive turn as well. Does not have the attack token, so kind of feels bad. Going to waste that 1/1 buff, but it's like he needs that blocker for the time being, anyways. And we'll see what comes down next, or if he's going to go ahead and bank that spell mana. It looks like opting to bank it, and Warding Shot for Swim. So we do have Riptide on and active for turn 8, if that's the route Swim decides to take.
Sorry, I
And
had a little side thing
Cephalopod,
going on. So
Cephalopod with the Fading Memories. And I actually love the. We started seeing it in deep decks as well, because deep actually wants to create some copies of, a lot of the cards in deep are really good, like Deadloom Wanderer, etc. And seeing the Fading Memories come out here on the Solari Soldier, we'll see what Cephalopod's setting up for. That is a great 1-cost activator for something like any of the Nightfall stuff that Cephalopod plays. And Swim passing back over to Cephalopod as well. So we'll see if continues to develop here, go in for kind of a big attack turn. It's very possible. I mean, Swim does have, okay, it looked like he had Petty Officer in hand, but actually does not. Really just has the Black Market Merchant. So Cephalopod with this Nocturne actually seems like it's going to get a lot of work done. This Nocturne right now cannot be blocked by anything. Feels awkward if Swim does, in fact, have to play something like a Thermo Beam here. Spending that 7 mana feels bad. But Twisted Fate would also be able to stun it out with something like a gold card. Again, it feels a little bad because you're not actually killing Nocturne, but you are essentially preventing a whole 5 damage from coming through this turn, not having any fearsome blockers. And you do still have the Petty Officer to trade with the Solari Soldier if that does come through.
yeah, I think we've actually seen this Nocturne do more work for Cephalopod than we've seen for any other Nightfall aggro player. He seems to consistently get this down to the point where I always forget that Nocturne gives permanent vulnerable, unlike Sejuani.
Yeah, and okay, so actually opting to totally forgot about the vulnerable for a second. So the Solari can actually go ahead and pull this Poro, get the free trade, and the Shadestalker very easily actually is able to push through some more damage there. With it having the 3 health, doesn't really trade well at all. The parlay, though, makes
This
the
is
gold card feel a little bit better if he does opt to play it.
Yeah, I think I was a little worried about the gold card because it almost did feel like not a potential bait into the parlay. It's this topic of perceived value that you and I bring up a lot, where oh, my reckoning needs to get all this value, things like that. Where it's do I throw the parlay at this one health unit when he can just play a pale cascade to save it, or am I fine just using it to push that additional 1 damage onto it? I don't think that you can really gold card and then justify thermo beaming it just because it is so easy to pick it off later. But with Swin passing, I wouldn't be too surprised if he actually opens the turn with the parlay so that at the very least, Cephalopod's going to have to play another card before he can actually get the draw off the Pale Cascade. Whereas here, it would feel really bad to throw a parlay into something like that.
Yeah, and we'll see what Cephalopod has in response. Yeah, Pale Cascade, nailed it. Gonna be coming out onto the Nocturne, at least for now. I mean, just really valuing the draw there. I don't know why he actively played the Pale Cascade there.
I think so when he saw Swim hover, I think he made a parlay read and said, "You know what? I see what you're doing. You want to proactively parlay on the next turn so that I have to play something like I have to do something really awkward to actually get the draw off this Pale Cascade. Instead, I'm going to play it now because the end goal that I want is a heal onto this Nocturne, and doing it now accomplishes that goal."
Yeah, and if we did want to play the parlay, it just being super not really useful. So Cephalopod, yeah, great read there, I think, from Cephalopod. Still, though, Swim is at 16, and we have 2 Riptides now that do have active. Looks like the attack token will be on the side of Cephalopod on turn 8, which will be crucial. However, if Cephalopod, reads that there is a Riptide, decides to go for attack, that could be the difference maker on that turn. So it's going to be interesting to see heading into turn 8 what happens. For the time being, going to get some draw. We do have salvage and pilfered goods picked up. We might see another TF
I
level
was
here.
just about to say, SJW, let's talk about this Twisted Fate level up.
That's
That's
how
how
this
we
deck.
saw. Yeah, Swim took away the first match with a level Twisted Fate. I mean, it still looked so close, but it was just a little bit too hard for Cephalopod to get through. And I mean, what answer could Cephalopod realistically have for this? It's Unspeakable Horror and Atrocity are the only removal spells in the deck. It's so unreasonable for you to have to try and remove this Twisted Fate, and that's a problem that we see a lot of mostly Targon decks run into.
Yeah, wow. I'm very curious to see if this TF levels again because the TF that was actually that was the game that Swim won, right? Swim ended up losing both Lee Sin games that he ended up playing, and the way that he won was with the TF. So if this is similar to what happened, I think he's actually in a better spot to win right now with where the life totals are at and what the hands look like because we do know that Riptide is online. There are plenty of draw cards in hand to get this TF level up online, and not only that we have this thermo beam to fall back on if we absolutely need to remove any sort of big threat that might hit the board.
Yeah, I mean, what big threat are we really talking about? I feel like it's got to be used on. I mean, we had talked last game about how Diana and Nocturne were sort of the easiest ways to remove the Twisted Fate. There's no Mystic Shot or Get Excited out of Swim, not even Gotcha. So any proactive or any fast speed removal just completely off the table. So it would have to be a Thermo Beam onto a Diana or a Nocturne that is threatening this Twisted Fate in order to protect it. And I think that's not necessarily the reason that he's hanging on to this Thermo Beam. He doesn't have a great target for it now. There's not a lot of like big units in this deck, but I mean, Cephalopod might have to play it a little risky here and go for something seemingly really awkward, like a turn 6 Cygnus into not even lethal damage, just like a big swing and try to set up for an atrocity lethal.
Yeah, and gonna go and pass it back over to Cephalopod. So not utilizing the attack. Obviously, doesn't attack Twisted Fate. Could get blocked out by the Shade Stalker. So we'll see if Cephalopod decides to develop a little bit more, maybe going in a turn 6 where he can open attack with something. Not quite sure if that's the route he's going to want to take. Again, very curious to see what happens going into turn 8, though, whether or not we see an open attack. Black Market, I don't think Swim has done damage this turn, right? He just drew.
No. Yeah, he just drew.
Plunder online. Can't play the Black Market Merchant or the Pilfered Goods. We do get the second Shade Stalker out now. So we'll see if Swim does want to go ahead and start committing something. This is possibly something you want to use the thermo beam on, just because the elusive units are seemingly the units that are a little bit harder to deal with, because we can't chump block them with something like petty officer. So we'll
Yeah,
see if we do go down.
it's definitely going to be a little awkward. And I think, I mean, we talk a lot about how a lot of decks in the format look like they want to chip at you little by little. And that sort of gets, stalled out by Targon healing. And that's why we don't really like those kinds of decks. But this is a very stagnant life total on the side of Swim. And I mean, as much as you want to save that Thermo Beam to protect the Twisted Fate, this is something that comes up a lot in side decking, actually, where you go into a game with a side deck strategy and you're like, okay, I'm going to take out this card. And then if that card is a defining factor in your win in game number one, you kind of second guess yourself into thinking, okay, actually it did work out in game number one. Maybe I should leave it in. And Swim could be saying, well, Twisted Fate is how I won game number one. Maybe this is a win con that I should continue to play towards, and instead does use the thermo beam onto the Nocturne and says, you know what, no, that's not the plan that I came in here with to beat Nightfall aggro. Let me go ahead and play the game that I came prepared with.
Yeah, and we do have the Diana coming down now. Again, will be interesting to see if this does end up being some sort of atrocity type play out of Cephalopod as we start to push for some more damage here. I do think that this attack turn and the next attack turn are going to be where Cephalopod looks to attempt to close things out. And with Cephalopod going so wide, it's unfortunate. On 6 mana, there's really nothing that Swim can play to match going wide. He's kind of, I feel, forced to warning shot into possibly Black Market Merchant just to get an additional blocker down.
Yeah, and this is a really strong attack on the side of Cephalopod. I think that there's a reasonable chance that even if you wanted to use this TF as a win con, you probably have to throw it out as a blocker, because I don't think that Cephalopod's going to stop here. I think he's going to play at least one more unit, and be that a Doom Beast or a Crescent Guardian. That's way too much damage pusher. We saw those Crescent Guardians do massive work in this matchup. Just so many low health units, actually in both the Swims decks, this and the Lee Sin deck. A lot of just 1, 2, 3 health guys. Not really anything that can contest these board-centric decks that Cephalopod has brought, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this one actually go the way of Cephalopod, even though we saw Swim pick it up in the first series.
Yeah, especially with how the board is looking. This is really a bad spot for Swim. I mean, he does pick up the inspeed. Okay, I mean, one drain isn't nothing. I mean, it does help, but these Pale Cascades on, oh man, I can't tell you enough how much of an impact these Pale Cascades on these elusive units such as the Shade Stalkers actually just accomplish so much. This is so, like, I know it's only for the turn and you're only pushing that extra 2 damage, but that is huge. I mean, it's also replacing itself with the draw, right? With the extra effect there with the draw. So being able to push damage, replace itself, very, very good. It's basically like a Mystic Shot. We stole a Cygnus. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, we've seen Cephalopod constantly go for these proactive Pale Cascades onto his Shade Stalkers just to get a little bit of extra damage in there. And yeah, the Cygnus picked up. There's no this isn't a normal NAB deck out of Swim. It is TF Ezreal, so there's no like Jack the Winner or Gangplank that we can really pair together with this Cygnus and get a really big turn out of. And if I saw correctly, he just whiffed on Stalking Shadows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was actually, so I always get confused when that happens because I was
Just
wait.
waiting for the animation. You're like, oh, the stream must be frozen. The game must have fucked. No, that just means there were 4 spells on top of Swim's deck, no units available. Well, 4 spells or champions, as you can't pick champions either.
Yeah, and I've actually seen that happen a lot more than I thought I would when I first saw that card revealed. So I mean, I guess it's not too much of a surprise. It's definitely a chance of it happening, and unfortunate for Swim, doesn't get what he needs or really anything there, and gonna take a solid 6 damage. We need to make it to Riptide, and again, I mentioned this earlier. If we go into turn 8, I gotta imagine Cephalopod's gonna be trying to set up some sort of open attack on turn 8. That parlay does
So
not do it.
the bad news is, and I could be totally wrong on this, and I don't think anyone can actually confirm or deny. Well, there are cases where you could confirm or deny this. If the Stalking Shadows whiffs, I don't think it shuffles away the top 4 cards, which means that for the next 4 turns, Swim should be top decking spells and champions.
Oh, and that might not be really too great for him because even a TF or an Israel is not going to do anything to get him out of the situation. I mean, he needs if he gets anything, he's going to need petty officers. Like if he got a petty officer, that would probably kept him in this game. Yordle Grifter, another good option. Zap Sprayfin. Actually, literally any follower. Like besides Riptide Rex, if he just gets a follower, he's golden. So for him to have missed on that Stalking Shadow and like you said, only going to get spells of champions, I think that's actually terrible for Swim. That might spell defeat. I think he actually just auto loses because of that.
Yeah, and it looks like he's actually going to go for 3 1 damage removal spells onto the Diana. And this is risky. You know, we talk a lot about the Pale Cascade being used as a safe spell to, you know, get these units out of range because it does buff onto the health as well. And if we see a Pale Cascade come out onto this Diana after Swim throws away 2 Parlay and a Stalking Shadows, that's going to be heartbreaking for him. I think that he is pretty much out of this one. I think that Seth's going to just set himself up for as impactful as an open attack as possible, understanding that the Riptide Rexes are probably sitting waiting in Swim's hand to tear apart his board. And I don't think Swim's going to be able to pull this one out. And you can kind of see it on his face. He doesn't look like he's loving his chances. Granted, I don't feel like I ever look at Swim's face cam and feel like, you know, he feels like he's winning the game.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Always a very like he's just thinking really hard look. So not sure if he's very happy about this, but yeah, I wouldn't be if I were him. I mean, the Cygnus doesn't really get much done. Like you said, if he is gonna go for the 3 removal spells on the Diana, it's gonna be rough. And okay, gonna do the parlay instead. I guess this way he knows he guarantees he at least removes this 2 damage off the board. Even if Pale Cascade does come out, you do have the Unspeakable Horror to return, but this is, I mean, there's 9 mana. Cephalopod has 9 mana to develop the board with Swim only having, yeah, this
Yeah,
is
that's
game.
a rough one. And I mean,
Yeah.
you could throw down the Cygnus, you could try and Stalking Shadows to get your own Doom Beast, but what do you even throw the Stalking Shadow? I mean, I'm asking where you throw the Stalking Shadows, like it probably even matters. I really don't think it does. I mean, I guess you throw it onto the Diana to try and top deck a Make It Rain. It seems like the most reasonable option. But yeah, I don't think there's anything that's going to pop out of that that's going to get him back into this one.
Yeah, this is all but wrapped up here, folks. It's like Cephalopod will be going up 1-0 here with this Nightfall aggro. And, you know, again, I've said it all day. I'm not, you know, I like Nightfall aggro. I don't think it's the best aggro deck, but Cephalopod has done an amazing job piloting it today, getting it to the, you know, the victories that he needs to obviously keep himself in the tournament. He's in tiebreakers right now, and he might be able to go ahead and advance to have the chance to take on Yatsuba to get his spot in day 2.
This is exciting, though. This is what I wanted to see out of the tiebreaker match.
Oh
I'd
yeah.
like to see it go to 3 games still, but
Oh
I
yeah.
like to see different matchups. I want to see this TF Swain play into the Shen Fiora because I
Mhm.
don't think that Riptide decks really do as well against Demacia as they seemingly used to. And we're going to even get this Unspeakable Horror down. Just try and find another unit to go for lethal.
Yeah, this game is all but over. I think we do have Crescent Guardian, so at least we have a blocker. There's that. This
That ain't
is,
much.
yeah. I mean, this still gets, even if it gets challenged by the Diana. That's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got to imagine there's 1 more damage in Cephalopod's hand. That's assuming he doesn't play any other units to just develop this open attack. I think, like, is there ever a world where Cephalopod doesn't open attack and gives Swim the window he needs to play Riptide?
So you were talking about that fatigue a little bit earlier.
I guess we'll see. I guess we're gonna see in a second if that's the case. Maybe this fatigue will get to him. He just doesn't, you know, read the open attack on the turn 8 with the Riptide. I highly doubt it. But you know, where there's a will, there's a way, and there's always outs to play to. And at this point, I think Swim's out is playing to his
Well,
opponent making a mistake.
that's the problem, SJW. Where there's a will, there's a way, but there's no will in this deck. That's the other deck you're thinking of, you silly goose. And that does mean that
Oh,
Cephalopod should just pick this one up, but he doesn't have lethal actually on board represented. He's only at 7 damage, which does mean that he would need to not go for an, or maybe just the fading
oh,
memories. But even then, I mean, the Riptide Rex is a very real, very scary possibility. But I think now, even more so, you go for this open attack because if the Make It Rain misses on the Diana, then you have lethal with the Doom Beast. And, you know, we were talking earlier, where do you send this Unspeakable Horror? Probably at the Diana in case we draw Make It Rain. But that's still a very scary possibility. If there's a Pale Cascade or any kind of, oh, yep, there's a Pale Cascade
Yep.
actually. Okay. And that
Yep.
is
So
going to
that's
pump up the
lethal.
Diana. That should just be lethal. Well, it's not lethal if you block the Doom Beast and the Make It Rain hits the Diana. Never mind, we just pulled the Diana.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, that is just going to be lethal. Swim can't draw anything off of this salvage, as we had mentioned. No Mystic Shot, no Gotcha. I mean, double Gotcha would get him out of this, but that's really it. And as we had mentioned, not in the deck. So Cephalopod gonna reverse the series. Say this is actually my story. You don't get to beat my deck
Wow.
twice with that TF Swim or the TF Ezreal, and we're gonna see TF Ezreal versus Shen Fiora probably happen at some point in this match. You know, Swim might switch over to the Lee Sin, but knowing that the last game of the last series was actually him losing with that Lee Sin deck against Shen Fiora, I think he's going to want to stick on this TF Ezreal. But it's always hard to tell the mentality of players on when they want to switch decks and when they don't after they lose. So we'll just kind of have to wait until we get into the game on that one.
Yeah, so interesting because that deck, so the first time around when we saw Swim play, Swim was able to pick up a victory with that deck versus that same matchup versus Nightfall aggro. So Swim starting the game with a smile on his face. Looks like we are actually switching up the deck to Lee Sin versus Fiora Shen here. So going to get a similar matchup from the last set of games that they played previously. We'll see if Swim is able to get a victory with Lee Sin. I imagine. All right. I have to get a victory under my belt with this Lee Sin deck. He's yet to beat Cephalopod with this Lee Sin deck. So he's probably like, okay, I'm going to play this. If I get the win, then I actually have a chance to win this set of 3. If I can't win with the Lee Sin deck, then I just don't think there's hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. You know, we always talk about there's different ways to look at it, but it looks like Swim says, you know what? I know that if I'm going to win this series, I have to pick up a win with this Lee Sin deck sooner or later. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way and see if I actually do have a chance at beating you with this one. At least going to have something, you know, to buff up with a Mentor of Stones if he does find one early. But and even has the Pale Cascade in case there is another early River Shaper from Cephalopod. So the story already changing. Nobody going to be able to play the same game twice, and we're just going to have a whole different series on our hands.
And looks like, all right, I'm going to go back over to Cephalopod. Has the Green Glade on the field. Gift Giver on the side of Swim here. I imagine this looks like a pass back. This is just going to bring the attack token back over. Yep, Swim goes ahead and takes it. We draw the Hold the Infinite, and seems like a pretty easy Solari Priestess here to open up the turn, possibly get a nice Celestial card there. We could go ahead and open attack with the Gift Giver, possibly get set. I mean, I don't think there's ever a reason why Cephalopod's going to block. He's just going to let that damage through. So we'll see if we do see the Solari Priestess come out or possibly even a pass back. Yeah.
And it looks like we are just going to go for the open attack. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well take that little bit of damage. You could go for the pass mine games, but I don't think that's really something that you're going for here.
No, and you might as well get the free damage. Who's that not going to get? Kind of passes priority back over to Cephalopod. Swim also knows that he's not going to develop any sort of attack turn here, so you might as well get that out of the way before Cephalopod can throw down something that could block that Gift Giver. And you do still have the Solari Priestess to utilize, as you haven't played a card yet. So we'll see if Cephalopod is able to get something to stick here, though. Turn 3, we could see a Fiora come down. We could see a River Shaper. We know how much that blew out the game.
Swim, bud. I don't know how much playing the Solari Priestess resets the timer, but actually is just going to pass it back over. I got a little bit worried for him there. I was like, you know, maybe you just play this and you don't have any time left and you get handed a Celestial rather than picking one. But yeah, it feels like for most of the series, we've actually seen Swim prioritize hanging on to 3 spell mana rather than proactively playing things like the Solari Priestess. But now we have an early Fiora online for Cephalopod, and this does feel like the kind of deck that you can go for a win with it on. You know, we didn't see it come up as much last game. He did end up just flooding the board with Bright Steel Formation and taking it over that way, but it's not unreasonable for the Fiora to get in there. I think the only thing in the deck that it can't kill is Lee Sin.
Yeah, but again, Lee Sin, if Lee Sin does come down, well, if it's a leveled up Lee Sin, we'll just bounce the Fiora back to hand and reset that level up. We might take the Meteor Shower here to potentially kill it, but it looks like we are going to go with the Sisters here. Going to play maybe a little bit of a later game, just deal with some of this aggression that's now starting to come out from Cephalopod with this Fiora. We do have the Pale Cascade, so I imagine this is going to get a repost out of Cephalopod. There's a couple other options. We could see Fears that feel bad here, unless it is the only barrier spell, and Cephalopod is is just valuing saving the Fiora. But either way, this feels like a bad use of both cards just to trade with something like a Solari Priestess.
Spirit's Refuge. Yeah, I think, I mean, it doesn't feel unreasonable to steal Tempest this. I think you do just want to kind of, no, never mind. It actually does feel kind of unreasonable just because, you steal
Yeah.
Tempest this, and then what? I have a 1/2 Solari Priestess that you can just kill with the Fiora a little bit later. I still have this other gift giver on field that's sitting at 1 attack. I think that there's definitely better uses that you're going to get out of this Steel Tempest a little bit later on.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a reason to save that that Solari Priestess.
No,
Maybe
I
if it
forgot
kept,
she's not like always a 3/3. I'm just looking at her like, yeah, that's a 3/3. You better save
I
that.
was just gonna
Very
say
good song,
maybe,
but no.
yeah, maybe if it kept the 2/1, right? But Lee
When
Sin
I
gonna get
backtrack
drawn.
immediately, no one's allowed to call me out on it, right?
So Lee Sin gonna go ahead. Looks like I don't see a reason why we don't play Lee Sin here. I mean, you could go for the other Solari Priestess, but Lee Sin coming down this early feels decent. You could also potentially be challenging this Fiora to get it off the field nice and early here. You actually do have 2 activators for the barrier and challenger. If Swim wants to go with that, you do have the gem and you do have the Behold the Infinite. So we'll see if that's the route that Swim decides to take here.
Yeah, just go for that quick kill onto the Fiora while your opponent doesn't have a whole lot of mana. It's not like Concerted Strike would kill the Lee Sin here. So I think if you are prioritizing a kill onto the Fiora, this is as safe as it's going to get. But I mean, yeah, it looks like he's just going to pass. Swim has shown, I don't want to say a reluctance to play these Solari Priestesses, but he definitely holds them back for a lot
Mhm.
longer than I would kind of expect him to. And this seems like a weird pass just because he doesn't have the board. He has the mana advantage. If Cephalopod just passes here and we take this more and more to the late game, maybe Swim is going to feel a little bit more comfortable in this match because this X factor that we didn't have last game is this Karma. He had discarded it, turn 1
Mhm.
to the Spacey Sketcher, never found another copy because he's only playing 2. But if we do make it to the late game this time around, he's going to have that immediately available.
And another Lee Sin drawn. So I don't really see a reason to not get one of these Lee Sins down. You also
Okay,
have a deny to
question.
protect it.
That Lee Sin drawn, is that supposed to sound like Lee Syndrome?
No, but now I want it to.
Oh man, I shouldn't have even asked.
Why'd you do that? You put that in my head, man.
I thought you were doing it intentionally. Nothing's worse
No,
than when like you're punning on accident and I pointed out to you and now you have the power to do it proactively.
now it's permanent.
Oh man.
Yeah, look what you did.
I'm sorry, chat. I didn't mean for this to happen.
Though the Fiora, though, looking to challenge the gift giver, gonna get a. It's a little dangerous for Swim. It looks like we are actually making progress towards this Fiora level up in the Fiora win con. We have, some things here that we could do. We have the resonating strike to trade with it. After the second spell comes out, going to go ahead and give the +2 attack. But I don't know if you really want to do that. You also have the Steel Tempest to just prevent this attack from going through, period. This is why I wanted the Lee Sin to come down previously, because the Lee Sin would be able to trade with the 3 health Fiora. Now, if the Fiora levels up, it won't trade as easily. You would have the gem to be able to Lee Sin, but now you're just kind of in an awkward spot where you might have to, just allow this Fiora to level up and kill this gift giver.
And that's sort of the problem with Ionia Targon is you don't have a lot of actual, I mean, you have literally no kill spells outside of the celestial cards that you invoke. But I mean, we see it again. The board is going to start to get away from Swim here. It looks like he is actually going to use the resonating strike to at least force a barrier spell out of Cephalopod here. And this will be really important because it means that the Fiora will go up to a 4/4 if that is what we see come out. And I think that Swim, this is a situation where he might use the Steel Tempest if we get a barrier spell out. Because if that Fiora does kill this and go up to a 4/4, we can no longer kill it with an unleveled Lee Sin. But no barrier spell out of Cephalopod does mean the Fiora is just going to die, and Swim going to hang on to the board a little bit longer.
So the Lee Sin still sticking around. We'll see if is able to finally utilize the challenge barrier this turn to get some sort of trade off.
So out to 9 man. I mean, there's not really a great proactive play on the side of Swim. Nothing that I can think of. it looks like he might go for the Solari Priestess, but I think it's more likely that he just passes back and continues to go for this Karma plan that he's been doing for most of the game, it would feel.
Yeah, and here we go. We're gonna see the Pale Cascade come down to the Sin. Well, this be able to allow him to trade with something here, but Cephalopod on 10 mana, so many options. Like there's so many things that Cephalopod can do here. This does it's a little awkward for something like a concerted strike that wouldn't actually kill this Lee Sin with it now being at 5 health. The dragon no longer kills it. Single combat doesn't really do a whole lot here either. We'll see if Cephalopod is able to find something in response to this. I actually said so many responses, but now that I'm going through it in my head,
Yeah, we had mentioned last
concerted,
game that there's,
yeah,
I mean, outside of Concerted Strike, there's no clean way for these Demacia decks to deal with the barrier. I mean, single combat is probably the messiest way to remove a barrier than I can
yeah.
possibly think of. So, not going to love that option. And even if there were purifies, God forbid, we had mentioned that earlier, it wouldn't work on a Lee Sin. So let's kind of throw that one out the window. But I mean, like Swim could play the sisters here. I think he's a lot more likely to just float and get the spell mana, especially now that that Genevieve has come down. We could see the Karma play to generate a random spell, but I think the most likely thing that's going to happen here is Swim is just going to pass.
So this is kind of where I thought the initial game would with this matchup, but the River Shaper that was drawn in the beginning, as we mentioned previously, was kind of what blew that one out of the water. And you can see Cephalopod falling behind a little bit in cards now. That River Shaper was pivotal in that original win over Swim previously. And you can see the cards now that Swim has above Cephalopod are going to allow him to continue to protect this Lee Sin, continue to develop Celestials like this with the Behold the Infinite, and really just be able to, have his units stick around a little bit longer than that previous game between Cephalopod and him where he had that River Shaper out.
Hanging on to the Deny, another thing that's going to play pretty well for Swim in this matchup. Not drawing up on too many copies of that, so not throwing that away to the Spacey Sketcher. The Will of Ionia is pretty good, and this Equinox, I'm curious to see if it goes down onto the Genevieve if Cephalopod develops, or if we're saving this for the Bright Steel formation. I think either one is pretty reasonable. And Genevieve number 2.
Oh,
I mean, that could be Equinox into a stun.
yeah, I think you kind of have to do that here. You play the slow card now. If Genevieve decides that Cephalopod wants to attack with one of the Genevieves and challenge the Lee Sin, you just concussive palm it. And I think that's actually pretty big. I mean, because Cephalopod's really fully committing to this 2 Genevieve turn here. There's not much else that he can play as far as units are concerned. Does have 5 mana open for a concerted strike. So the problem is at this point, if Cephalopod just goes for the attack after one of these is silenced, you do still leave this Lee Sin open to getting killed with a concerted strike. You do have the deny as a backup to that. So I
Yeah.
think that no matter which way you kind of slice this for Swim, he does have Cephalopod beat out this turn. The question is if he's going to go with that route and what?
I mean, he does have 2 more stun effects as well as deny mana.
Yeah,
I thought taking
I
the Challenger and Scout off of
guess.
one of them would have been what you go for, but it looks like he's playing pretty respectfully of that Stand United sort of cheese kill that we always talk about, especially since, I mean, maybe he feels like that he would have had to use the stun effects this turn
Mhm.
anyway, but it looks like he's probably going to take a lot of damage. And we talk about, Cephalopod's not winning this turn. He's not taking over the board. He is running out of cards. Swim feels a lifetime away from winning this game if he is going to win this game. It's not like going to, I mean, we saw him almost clinch it out with like a Great Beyond one time, and he's actually
Mhm.
just going to lose his Lee Sin here? Or no, it's going to get barrier after that resolves. Okay.
Yeah. So okay, so maybe that's why he made the play that he did because he knows the barrier is going to protect it anyways. And to your point, right? Yeah, it doesn't feel like Swim is going to lose anytime soon. I think that's kind of this deck. I mean, that's how this deck goes, right? We've seen it play a few times now, and although Lee Sin is now a 4 mana champion, and he does hit the field a lot earlier than previously, levels up a little earlier, is just able to kind of take over the board earlier the Lee Sin itself doesn't really start to come online and win the game until later when you have an established board, when you have ways to consistently challenge your opponent's units and get these Dragon Rages off. I think that a lot of this win condition is getting multiple Dragon Rages, is being able to actually slowly but surely kill your opponent with that damage.
All right, so now we're going to get the Steel Tempest. This does line up a pretty nice single combat on the side of Cephalopod. We had talked a lot about the mana inefficiency of Deny in a matchup like this. Cephalopod won't have single combat and Deny, but finding these spaces where the Lee Sin has already used its barrier for the turn and it's gotten popped are sort of your
Yep.
best bets at removing it. And I'm pretty sure that Steph's going to go for some kind of removal here, and we are going to see this Deny out of Swim, which is going to be a lot of his safety net gone. He doesn't have that Will of
Wow.
Ionia mana this turn, so will have to use a Deny if the Lee Sin does find his life in danger.
And no, actually, not going to see anything from Cephalopod. So
Oh,
might
he
have
spoke
or
too
might
soon.
just play it after, maybe. Now,
I
I
mean, the
feel like,
unit was getting stunned. There was not a
oh,
lot of reason to do it in
yeah.
response.
This feels worse having to deny this single combat as opposed to a concerted strike, but
Yeah,
it is what it is.
because if there's another single combat at a Cephalopod, the Lee Sin's dead. And like you don't know that Swim's not going to play another one. It could even, invoke into a Written in Stars and find an even bigger and badder Lee Sin, which is a terrifying possibility. But it looks like Seth either only had the one single combat or was only willing to commit the one.
All right. So we do have, I mean, speaking of that, we have
This is
Solari
unfortunate.
Priestess that we could potentially play to get more Celestials. We also have this Karma kind of just chilling in hand here. So I'm not sure if we ever get this Karma down anytime soon. It's going to be really awkward trying to get her down to the board.
Speaking of awkward, there's no way that Swim plays this Priestess this turn because he has to play one of these spells proactively in order to turn on the Lee Sin and threaten the lives of one of these Genevieves. And none of these look like things that I want to
Mhm.
be starting off my turn with. Star Shaping, the most likely to happen, but still a massive mana commitment.
Yeah, yeah, awkward is right. These are not the spells that you want to actually activate Lee Sin, and I guess that's one of the downsides of
Yeah.
Sin. So you
Like
got
I
to
said, a
kind of prepare for
lifetime
that.
away from winning the game. And it's like, this is the turn where he wants to start doing it and actually just doesn't have the hand to proactively do it. We're not seeing any Pale Cascades. We're not seeing any Behold the Infinites or Guiding Touch. It's just nothing in Swim's hand that he wants to proactively commit. This is way too much mana for the amount of threats that Cephalopod could still have. Maybe if we see a Bright Steel formation out of Cephalopod, then we'll see it happen. But I actually really like the pass out of Swim because you do get to mind game that. You say, hey, if you want to play a Bright Steel formation, that's what I'm saving my challenge for. So you're not allowed to do that. But we'll see if Cephalopod goes for it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of Cephalopod's hand. And interestingly enough, we were talking about how Cephalopod's falling behind on cards. Now, with some of these plays kind of forcing out responses from Swim, now Swim is kind of falling behind on that card advantage again. I mean, we do have some more Celestial Regeneration. We do have, or sorry, Generation, I should say. We do have the Golden Sister to also get the Silver Sister on board. So definitely some ways to compete with the board on the side of Swim. But yeah, playing this Will of Ionia proactively gonna feel really weird. You definitely don't want to do it on the Genevieves. So at this point, it would only be on the Shen, and that still doesn't feel good. You have the Concussive Palm, which generally you want to be playing defensively when your opponent goes to attack. This might actually be a play Golden Sisters and just like not really do much. Maybe attack with the elusive and go into Cephalopod's attack turn. I mean, is that kind of what we're looking at here? Possibly Karma?
If you play Golden Sister, then you're taking Will of Ionia off the table, and it means that Concerted Strike will just kill your Lee Sin. I don't think that's a risk that he's necessarily willing to take. And if he plays, even if he plays the Solari Priestess and lets that Will of Ionia stay as a backup, it only takes one unit to actually kill this Lee Sin. So I think he needs to save the two spells just so that he has the oh shit button that you had mentioned of giving barrier to the Lee Sin. Granted, that one, I mean, that would be enough because it's in conjunction with the Will of Ionia. So one of the 5 attack units pops the barrier, the other one goes back to the hand, doesn't strike a second time. But this is the counterplay from Cephalopod. Go wide on the board. If you don't want to challenge anything, if you want me to play a Bright Steel formation, how about instead I go Shen River Shaper and we can kind of go from there. And I feel like given the card advantage state, Swim really wants to kick this River Shaper.
Yeah, after that first game of the River Shaper wrecking him, yeah, I don't think he wants that bad boy sticking around any longer than it needs to. So if he is able to go ahead and challenge it, I think he will. It looks like now that he sees the River Shaper played to the field, now that Cephalopod is at 5 mana, he's got his eyes on it. We'll see what actually gets stunned with this concussive palm to activate the challenge on this Lee Sin and get it online for the River Shaper. And that would still give him, that mana to play the additional spell to get that barrier on Lee Sin if it does need to get protected. And looks like we're just kind of playing the concussive palm for the sake of playing it. Again, like you mentioned, awkward, which is why we're seeing it on the 5-1 Genevieve there. And we'll see if we see the challenge come out onto the River Shaper. Yeah, I think especially with where we are in the game right now, where Cephalopod is kind of even on cards with Swim, I don't think Swim can actually come back from this River Shaper generating more value than it needs to. If this thing gets more than one card, I think that alone is actually going to be pretty tough for Swim to come back from.
I mean, it still depends on this star shaping, right? And as well as the Solari Priestess Swim, the main win con that we've seen so far has just been trying to get a big Celestial down. I think even when we tuned into him against, I want to say it was Nola Gold, we saw 2 great Beyonds on his field as sort of his way to win the game. But it looks like we're going to
Huh.
kick the Shen instead of the
Wow.
River Shaper. And I mean, this is sort of the same goal, right? You don't, the Shen is what enables the River Shaper to get
Yeah.
multiple procs off. So rather than say, oh, we're just not going to let you have this at all, just going to take that off the table. Say, if you want to attack with the River
Yep.
Shaper, I'll block it with something. And now we have both
Ooh.
Karmas online on
That's a
turn
lot of
10.
spells. That is a lot of spells if we're able to get it inside of 8. Kind of overlooked because Swim is only playing 2 Karma, not 3. And so this is a very rare instance, I think, where this would happen. But maybe with the way this deck has been playing, where it tends to go pretty late and it's not really doing anything, it's just kind of setting up for this Lee Sin all game. Maybe this is one of those good situations that Swim is looking for with just playing these 2 Karmas, just getting both in hand. And now all of a sudden you have a ton of spells that are going to be at your disposal.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of the point where we might have to see this Solari Priestess come down just to see. I mean, a Comet would be a difference maker here, getting one of these higher attack and health units off the board permanently. The Will of Ionia only does so much. It's more of a stall tactic than anything.
Mhm.
Looks like we might be debating going for a Karma into a potential Karma's Inside of Ages or double star shaping. I mean, it even takes the deny off the table onto the Will of Ionia play, but I mean, this is a real awkward hand for Swim and has been for a couple of turns. Now, with 2 scouts staring you down that are threatening your Lee Sin, you literally only have 2 spells in hand. It looks like we're going to take a Meteor Shower to actually clean up one of these Genevieves after the barrier is popped, as well as just give us another spell to activate the Lee Sin.
Yeah, these Genevieves honestly have stuck around way longer than I like. Uh, I don't. Yeah, they're already really strong having Challenger and Scout, but being on the being on the field multiple turns, that's what I was going for. And getting extra value out of those additional Scout attacks is really big and is hard to deal with, as we've seen. I mean, they've basically owned the board for the last few turns for Cephalopod. Swim always needing to kind of prepare for them. They're always threatening the Lee Sin with that 5 attack onto the 5 health of Lee Sin. And even right now, Swim needs to find a response to this barriered up Genevieve. We might end up having to see this Will of Ionia come out, which feels so bad to Will of Ionia, a 5-1 Genevieve, just to see it come down again and buff your field.
Well, not only that, but this is just a scout attack. Cephalopod has a whole
Yeah.
other combat phase after this. You would then have to commit either the meteor or the star shaping. And granted, that's not the worst play in the world. You could actually throw down the meteor onto the Genevieve. And I mean, the meteor is not going to be able to kill 2 units because we're going to have the buff from the Genevieve, as well as the fact that you're sort of resetting the one that's at 1 HP. And I mean, awkward has been the name of the game so far for Swim, and it just
Wow.
actually
Yeah.
loses the Lee Sin there.
Yeah, and that's a very big deal. I mean, that is the deck. We need Lee Sin to really take home this game. And this is gonna put
Nah, we got star shaping.
I mean, we do have star shaping into a very great beyond. So we'll see if that is a play again. But now this is going to be risky on the side of Swim playing something like a Karma. If Cephalopod has any sort of removal, well, actually, we can't even see the Swim come out right now, or see the Karma come out from Swim. Whew, it's been a long day. Because we still have an attack token on the side of Cephalopod.
Yeah.
So Cephalopod can just go ahead and yoink it with one of those Genevieves. And so again, both these Genevieves being on board, huge tempo advantage. Oh,
I thought
okay.
we were going to go for this meteor shower to kill both Genevieves, but instead he passes back over.
Now you have to, right?
You have to, right? there's a chance for one of them to get barrier and start to pick your board apart. Unless he just really, really wants to get Karma down this turn for a double meteor shower. Maybe he is thinking, if I throw out this meteor shower and there's a deny in Cephalopod's hand, the game is over. It is, however, more
Mhm.
likely that there's a kill spell waiting for this Karma. And I don't think you're going to find yourself in a situation where you can actually get down the Karma and the meteor shower all in the same turn. You can't afford to float the 10 mana here. You could place, the Golden Sister and then go into the Karma meteor shower next turn. But these Genevieves are getting so much value in the meantime.
Do you ever consider just taking the entire attack because it looks like you'll probably live, and it looks like that's what Swim is thinking about doing?
What is
I,
that, 19 damage?
well, it's pretty damn close to lethal, but you have Star Shaping, you have Karma to play 2 Star Shaping. Like you have a lot to come back after this attack.
Yeah.
So I actually don't hate taking all of this damage. I like this play by Swim, and he's kind of banking on, okay, I'll let you have this turn. I am going to start being able to ramp up in card advantage here, get this Karma online, and start generating so many cards where you just aren't going to be able to have enough resources to deal with it. And I'll be back up. 1 Star Shaping is going to heal for 10 if he gets that off with.
So
That's instantly back.
you mentioned ramping up his card advantage. Are you advocating for Karma's Insight of Ages? Because that's the only spell getting doubled here that does anything, other than the Star Shaping getting 1 additional Celestial.
Well, so I was also going to say Star Shaping, but yeah, Karma Side of Ages feel is also going to get a lot done here. And yeah, you don't exactly know what spells you're going to get, but if he is able to find another Lee Sin or possibly a Written in the Stars off of these Celestials that he might get with Star Shaping to get a Lee Sin, then you're going to have Lee Sin online for quite a long time with all those extra spells. So yeah, I think that it's going to be a problem for Cephalopod to deal with, and it looks like that is what Swim is deciding to go with, and we'll see with the 4 mana if he ends up playing anything this turn. The problem is if this Karma gets like killed here, that's going to be it's going to be really bad. It's going to
Yeah.
be really, really bad because you want to be able to greed and play the inside. That this is great. This is amazing for Swim. I think he is in a much better spot now. The question is, how long is this Karma going to stick, and is he going to be able to deal with most of the field on the side of Cephalopod?
I feel like this was, I mean, obviously it's good to get the double up on the Star Shaping, not just for the additional Celestial, but for the heal as well. But to me, it feels a lot like the main purpose of this Karma was to make my spells undeniable. In which
Yeah,
case, I mean, what happens if you go for this Star Shaping and then you go for the Meteor Shower and Cephalopod throws 2 deny at you?
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, this basically guarantees that your shower is going through now. It also, I mean, if we don't see a deny on the meteor shower, it can also kill the Shen if that's something that
Yeah.
Swim decides he wants to go target. I feel like because he's playing around the deny, that might not actually be the case. And okay, he's okay. He took the
Oh,
cosmic inspiration. I like it. I like it. I
okay.
like the spiciness. We've been talking about this card all day. Haven't really seen. I think we saw it cast once, but it was like at the end of a game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'm curious to see if Swim can make a comeback with this cosmic inspiration here, but only 8 mana left. It's gonna be hard to get this off this turn.
Yeah, I don't think he's going for it this turn. Maybe he did that thing that players do sometimes when they have like Karma and Flash of Brilliance, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get double my spell mana, so this card costs 7 mana, but I get 6 back." And no, that's not how it works. You are
Mhm.
capped at 3 spell mana. You're not gonna get that available to you. And I mean, if Swim passes here, I don't love his chances. I really think I need to see this Meteor Shower come down and take these Genevieves off the table. But at the same time, you're very concerned about A, additional Genevieves, B, Bright Steel formation, C, literally any unit in my opponent's deck that has more than 4 attack. There's still just a lot of threats that Cephalopod could have here. And Swim's playing it patiently, but if you play it a little bit too patiently, you'll miss your opportunity.
I don't know why, but I feel like he's thinking about cosmic inspiration, but I feel like you'd never play it this turn. Okay, so I like the Inside of Ages.
These are all
Whimsy
singular
Bash.
will.
Singular Will is a card, man. That is a card we have yet to see in competitive play, or at least I have yet to see. That could be a very big deal.
Do you have to have a
Wow.
unit on board to play? You do, right? You have to play it. Do you have to have a unit on board to play that? I've never
I
seen
don't
this
think
card
so.
cast.
I don't think so. I neither have I, but I highly doubt you need go ahead and look this bad boy up. So it says, yeah. Oh wait, no. Pick an ally. Recall all other allies. Actually, yes, this does require a unit. I totally forgot that it has to pick an ally. So
Oh,
yeah, it looks like yeah, you have to pick one ally and then recall all other units. So you
I
would
mean,
have to. Oh wait, no, no, no. All right, well, okay, yeah, yeah, you still do need a unit.
make up your mind.
All right, we've decided that you need a
Oh,
unit.
burns Elise Sin with the overdraw.
Wow.
Not going for the meteor shower does mean that these Genevieves live and we get the scout attack. It also means that, we are going to overdraw our hand. No Lee Sin going to come out. And granted, there were a lot of duds left in Swim's deck. I mean, Pale Cascade and
Yeah.
Guiding Touch definitely feel a lot better when you have the Karma on board to draw two, but hand space is sort of the issue here. And we picked up a Living Legends. So that's just going to, I mean, Living Legends does seem like an awkward choice if we're going to then immediately Karma's Insight of Ages. It almost feels more like we're using this to get back the 2 mana after we do something like a Steel Tempest.
Yeah, and here is the Steel Tempest. Going to save the karma for now. We have the Singular Will. Passing back. All right, I like now. I just want this to like similar to how I wanted Disguise Descend to be played, and we've seen
Yeah,
it like
yeah.
two times now. I want Singular. I don't even know what the animation is.
Me neither. I
I
have a theory, and I'm kind of excited
I
to see if my theory is anything close to right.
yeah. I actually have never seen the animation. This is going to be a big deal. Played so. Oh, this feels like it's a really good turn to play Singular Will. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this is actually not a bad turn to play this card.
I mean, there is no Relentless Pursuit in Cephalopod's deck, so even if he kills your Karma in response, it's not like he could play another Genevieve and then, attack, scout attack, attack again, whatever kind of nonsense. He already scout attacked this turn, but you know what I mean. Uh,
Oh, so have we seen no deny come out of Cephalopod though?
We have not, but I mean, the Singular
Uh,
Will would get doubled up on anyway.
oh, that's right. Okay, so it wouldn't actually matter. So there we go. We're good. Unless
Unless
there's two deny in Cephalopods.
I already said that. You said it was you threw me off. You said no, don't even
Oh, did
worry
I
about
not?
the double deny.
I'm sorry. I
You
must
breezed
have
right
heard
past
you.
it.
Damn.
I
Okay.
don't.
Well.
Oh, he's gonna
Oh,
go for it.
oh, he's gonna
Oh,
do it. He's gonna
all
do
right.
it. Cephalopod, you better not have two deny because I need to see this card's animation.
You want to talk about the skies descend? Let's all watch all of your units ascend Cephalopod right back into your hand. And this is not something that you were playing around. This Karma's Insight of Ages could have blown the game wide open. I'm feeling like this is going to be a Mina Swiftfoot-esque animation.
Oh, let's see it.
Oh, wow, that was clean.
Oh,
That was a lot
very
faster
clean.
and cleaner than I thought it
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah, not quite Mina Swiftfoot.
No.
Wow. Okay. We have seen it, folks. We have seen a Singular Will played in competitive play. Didn't think I'd see that today. That is not something I thought I'd see coming into this weekend. Not gonna lie. Screeching Dragon gonna hit the field now. And that, for the most part,
Oh,
shuts
this is bad. This is a straight up kill onto the Karma. This is the worst case scenario that Swim was a little bit afraid of, but decided that he needed to go for anyway. At least we'll have the turn to redevelop. I guess the sisters. Maybe you go for a Living Legends and see what you can pull out of that. But he used the other Karma, so doesn't have that available, and this is what he was so worried about.
Yeah, and that might just about do it for Swim because this is such a lackluster turn. There's not a whole lot that he can proactively do to kind of keep up with Cephalopod now. Like we know what's in Cephalopod's hand too, right? Like we
Yeah.
see there's so many units. He can just go wide again. And honestly, there's nothing Swim can do about it. The Swim we can see just as the sisters, sure, that's 2 units. And we have a Whimsy, I guess, to prevent one of the attacks, but it's just going to be a really big board coming in from Cephalopod on the open attack next turn. I don't know. I don't think Swim comes back from this.
Even if it's not the open attack, I mean, just looking at Swim's hand, this is a lot of nothing. Bastion, Hush, Key Guardian.
Yeah.
The Whimsy's okay, but I mean, this Meteor Shower has just been in Swim's hand ever since we saw those Genevieves come down, and we do still have. Well, I mean, one of them was burned due to hand space because it was all the way to the right, but there are still there's still one other Genevieve in the hand that could come down this turn. You don't necessarily need to get the buff board off of it in order to kill Swim at this point, but might go for that anyway. And I don't think there's a lot of punishes for developmental attacks out of Swim, so gonna feel pretty comfortable to go for that.
You know,
This is
you mentioned there's a lot of duds in his hand, which I agree, for right now. if that Lee Sin had been drawn and not burned,
Ah, yeah.
a lot of those spells would like Bastion with Lee Sin, great. You know, like Whimsy even with Lee Sin, great. You know, everything. Like all these spells would have been so much more impactful with Lee Sin on the board, but now just no, it was burned, and it feels really bad because I don't necessarily think that that Karma play was the wrong play. Like you said, there was a lot of other duds in his deck, and yeah, it's just tough break for Swim.
Yeah, a little unfortunate, but that's the way she goes. And I don't think he's coming back from this one, though. I mean, he's not dead on board, not by any means. We could even see the Whimsy to kill the Screeching Dragon, which might end up pulling. I mean, either Sister that I protect, I'm feeling pretty good about. And now I'm not 100% sure on this because I haven't seen this interaction come up yet. But yeah, Whimsy. Okay, never mind. Whimsy silences the unit and turns it into a squirrel. So it will actually overwrite the barrier on the Shen if we do throw that down onto the Screeching Dragon.
Yeah, and Swim taking his time, going over his move. And unfortunately, not a whole lot he can do. I mean, you have this potentially deal with something, but yeah, it's just going to go back over. And I think Cephalopod will be able to close this out here on an open attack.
I mean, look at how
Um,
quickly Cephalopod was able to rebuild the
oh,
board after that singular will. 2 units down on one
yeah.
turn, 3 down on the next. Now, oh look, it's my attack turn again, and here comes Genevieve Elmhart strolling down the lane. And I mean, this Solari Priestess is basically a nothing top deck out of Cephalopod or out of Swim. Sorry,
Hmm.
I even if you get a Supernova, I mean, we're a little worried about a deny in Steph's hand, right? That is
A
still a very
little.
real possibility.
It's almost a certainty by now. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like,
we're
we haven't actually been in a situation where deny would have gotten any value. It was a doubled up singular will, so couldn't have
mhm.
stopped that one. And I mean, if you do get this and you go for, I guess Supernova is probably your best bet, but I don't even know if that's going to be enough to bring you back into this one. A deny definitely ends it, and you can't
Doesn't
get
even
that off
get it.
Solari Priestess
Yep.
because it only gets 4, 5, and 6. You'd have to get it into the Traveler, into it, and overall.
Living Legends, maybe.
Living Legends is still on the table, and that'll ramp you 3 mana. It's only going to get you what, 2 Celestials though?
At that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, at this point, yes. But I mean, that's assuming Swim lives. I really am not expecting Swim to live through this turn. Actually, does he wait 4, 8?
Yeah, he lives through the turn.
Live through this attack. So okay. So he will live to see another day, but you know, has this cosmic inspiration. So now that both sisters are going to end up dying to these challenger units, the cosmic inspiration basically gets no value. And I'm pretty sure from this point on, like Swim needs a Lee Sin. He absolutely needs a Lee Sin. And even now,
I don't think he's well, he has the written in stars, so he can get one. But if that gets the karma, I mean, looking at these spells in Swim's hand, none of these get doubled up value. Whimsy, nothing. Will of Ionia, nothing. Meteor Shower. How many turns did we see that sit in his hand with karma? So do we even really want to count that one?
so all right, the problem is Cephalopod almost certainly has a deny. And I'm thinking he's at
He'll
11.
definitely have one after these River Shapers connect, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And like there is this weird world where Swim, I guess, could get Lee Sin buffed up. You get the written in the stars. You buff up the Lee Sin with maybe like Cosmic Inspiration. You deal the 11 damage. The problem is you can deny the Dragon's Rage, and Cephalopod will again almost certainly have it at that point for the Dragon's Rage. We could even see Riposte come out here 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Riposte just wins.
Well, I mean, you have
Nope.
a Whimsy, so you're not really worried about that necessarily. You also have Will of Ionia and mana to play both of them.
Okay, yeah. So actually, just gonna bring Swim down to 2 instead. And I think you just have to play Written in the Stars, right?
I mean, we've talked a lot about what we thought Swim had to do, and he didn't do it. That meteor shower still sitting mostly all the way to the left there. I'm actually surprised that Swim has been able to hold on this long. Cephalopod's units just, I mean, he's getting the advantages off of the River Shaper, but they're not that big.
Well, yeah, because there's only so many spells in that deck, and
Yeah.
I think if connecting, I don't even know if he'll be able to get any more spells. Did we actually see him get 2 spells there?
Yes, he did. He did get
Okay,
2 spells. I was watching.
so he might actually be out of spells now, or maybe only have like 1 left. Just tossing that out there, but we do see the Lee Sin get drawn with the Written in the Stars by Swim, and that means what is it? Try to think the new stats. What is it buffed up 2/2? So is it 6 attack now?
Yeah, it's going to be a 6/7.
6/7. So we need to buff it somehow 5 more to actually present lethal with Dragon's Rage. But now the question is, how do we get around to deny? Bastion doesn't help with that. Whimsy doesn't help with that. None of the, I mean, deny just wrecks him for a turn. So at this point, Swim needs to get the Lee Sin down. He needs to attack, present lethal, get the deny out of Cephalopod, and then live another turn to try to do it again. And I think that's a tall task for Swim to actually accomplish with what's in his hand currently.
Yeah, tall task, more like tall tale, because that sounds like a work of fiction to me. I don't think that's something that happens here in the real world, Buckaroo.
I think you are accurate there. Hey, again, we're casters. That's our job. We tell you all the crap that
Yeah, we
probably
cast
won't happen.
spells on people. Oh,
What?
what were you gonna say?
Not playing WoW?
Oh, I've been casting spells all day to bless. I mean, how many top decks did I call? What, 2, 3 of them? Did you think that was luck?
Yeah, you Cephalopod's top deck? Oh, dude, that was
That's
whew.
Spirit's Refuge. I mean, I didn't. I might have given that to him in a different game. But or did we just discard the Written in Stars, or not the Written in Stars? The Meteor Shower. Is that the
Yeah.
use that this card has come for?
Well, at this point, it does nothing on the board.
Yeah,
There's
it
no
had a lot of time to get value and just didn't come down. And now, yeah, I guess it is sort of past its prime. Looking at this board, what am I going to do? Kill one unit for 5 mana? That doesn't really seem like a game winning line just because that's too big of a mana commitment for Cephalopod to just redevelop a different unit right over top of its body.
Oh, okay. Huh. What kind of weird shenanigans can we do with this card?
I'm looking at Karma Cosmic Inspiration. It does nothing. It loses the game, but hey, we already threw out a singular will onto a Karma, and we look like we're going to lose the game because of that. Why not double down on your choices?
We can get Lee Sin and Cosmic Inspiration off and still have a decent amount of mana this turn.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said about that, which that'll 100% get out the deny. But the other concern is, okay, so we play around this deny. There's almost definitely other things like concerted strike and single combat. So I don't think Cephalopod spends mana so that he can't actually just exhaust his hand and kill the Lee Sin. Like, and if he saw, which I imagine he saw the other Lee Sin, this is the last Lee Sin. And if this Lee Sin dies, which again, see, so he didn't spend anything. If this Lee Sin dies, that's just game. And Cephalopod must know that. So I imagine he will invest absolutely everything into making sure this Lee Sin dies.
I don't think this Lee Sin dies this turn, not through Hush, Whimsy, Bastion.
Yeah, Bastion's a thing. Yeah, and Whimsy. Do we play the Cosmic Inspiration? That'll leave us with
Apparently,
okay,
we want
actually
a little more mana.
Living Legends first. Okay. Immortal going for this elusive stuff again. If he gives himself a winning line again
Okay,
with
so let's talk about how if you Moon Silver, this is an 11 attack Immortal Fire.
oh, and he has the attack token. Oh,
Man. This is
the elusives. What is this?
who put elusive. I mean, Swim said his favorite archetype was elusives, and he is now being rewarded for it by finding this Immortal Fire that's going to have 11 attack on the attack token turn. And I think that a concerted strike would just kill it. I think that the first hit dealing 5 kills at this next hit should still connect onto it. I think it's more like Tryndamere than Anivia.
I agree with you. I do expect it to kind of act
But
like Tryndamere.
Hush takes concerted strike off the table as an answer. So does Bastion. And he's going to have mana for both. I don't know if there's a way for Cephalopod to actually kill this. And Swim might have just gotten the high roll out of his. Look at his face. Look at how happy he looks to get this insane high roll. That is a man ecstatic. He's ecstatic right now.
You said that he has these like wide eyes and eyebrow. Like I don't even know what face he's making. But that maybe is the face of an absolute ridiculous top deck for a winner here. Let's see. He's thinking about doing it.
I mean, we thought Cephalopod was dead to the Great Beyond last time, and then managed to pull out the Spirit's Refuge with the single combat. He does still have that play available to him here as well. Although the Hush and Bastion make that a lot harder this time around.
Wow, I am gonna be so there. I'm almost positive there is 2 concerted strike in a single combat. There's no way Cephalopod does not have 2 concerted in a single combat.
I mean, you keep talking about him being out of spells, but I think he plays like 14.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, yeah, he does. Hold on.
Okay, we got a couple of spells. Spirit's
Yep.
Refuge
And
and single combat. Double
deny if
Concerted
he's
Strike
doing.
is off the table.
So this must be like deny, and then he also has a concerted strike and a. I wonder. I hope he didn't misplay that because this will get Dragon's Rage because now he has to deny this Dragon's Rage. Actually, no. Sorry. If he's playing the concerted strike or the single combat in response, it'll happen. So he'll still get the lifesteal.
All right, we're lining up a couple of spells, but I don't think it's going to be spells that get through Hush and Bastion, especially since that, we already committed some mana to Lifesteal Barrier. That's got to be factoring into Cephalopod's plans. I think he's going to get blown out by the Hush here. There's single combat number 1. There's single combat number 2. And that means that Hush would just make it so that the dragon does die to the first single combat, and this Immortal Fire gets pushed through.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say because this dragon goes down to 4 attack, right?
Yeah, and just dies to the first one. The second one doesn't resolve. Then you have Bastion on backup for the concerted strike, and
I just saw a little smirk. I just saw a little smirk from Swim now because I think there is
told
no
you
way.
he was happy.
I think there is no way for Cephalopod to win here now, knowing Bastion and a Hush. I think he. No. Whoa.
Oh, put that whimsy down, young man.
First spell. Don't scare us like that.
Oh
what
my!
is he
Is
doing?
he gonna go for this whimsy? I mean, so if you do go for the whimsy,
no.
Whimsy's okay. Whimsy gets around concerted strike. You still don't have the stats on board to kill this Immortal Fire twice.
Okay. I got you. Because yeah. Well, wait. If there's a concerted strike though, oh no. Yeah, you still don't because nothing adds. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have a 4 attack unit to go alongside the Genevieve to actually get it done. I am a little scared. I would have preferred the Hush Bastion, but I don't think there's actually a play that Cephalopod can have.
No way. There is no way. Wait,
what do we got here? A post, and then you have 1 mana, and that's nothing. Yeah, that only kills the Phoenix once. We're going to game 3. We're going to game 3. Yeah. I can't believe Swim found the answer. Cephalopod with nearly every spell in his deck in his hand, but Swim gets it done with that randomly generated whimsy.
Wow. So, oh my God. All right, listen, Swim, every time we've seen this Lee Sin deck, I don't know if you recall, but every single time it seems like he always is looking for that big elusive unit.
Yeah,
for sure. Might actually be his game plan.
The wildest part of this is that he needed the Moonsilver as well to give another Celestial onto the attack of the Immortal Fire
for exact lethal.
I mean, we've seen players live and die by living legends, but Swim is a living legend himself and gets rewarded by the card just finding 2 of the perfect outs in only, a sort of a 3. He only had 3 cards to pull from, found 2 of the good ones, and I wonder if we're going to get another break before we go into game number 3.
Well, everybody, hope you have until about 2 a.m. this evening because we're in for a ride. All right, we're going on about 11 p.m. now, and we're going into game 3. We still have 1 more match.
There's a whole match after this. Yatsuba is just like probably passed out on the couch right now.
Yeah, I hope he didn't fall asleep. This is gonna Ascent of Targon delayed until Sunday. This is actually now just gonna get lumped in with day 2. So.
Yeah, actually, if we cross over to midnight, technically, we're the day 2 casters. Sorry, Cass and Blevins, this is just how it works.
Yeah,
no, those 2 will be bringing you all the action tomorrow. I don't think there's going to be any tiebreakers in the top 8. So
no, it's double elim, so we should be good. And wow, some pretty crazy stuff. And it does look like we are take just a second.
We're Sparkling Iced Tea stayed up this entire time to try and watch his favorite game. Actually, this is going to be great because right after this, we're actually going to get you straight into the World Championship for League of Legends, where I don't know if Team Liquid has a game today, but
Team Liquid's up 2-0 right now, but they don't have a game today because the man in my ear is absolutely the random facts at random points. So thank you, Panda, for being an amazing producer here for us today. So big shout out to him because we're not used to this. I'm not used to this. This is great. So yeah, Liquid.
I'm not used to having a useful producer. So
I quit. Panda, shut this off. What is this, man? This is the love I get. This is the love I get from you for all these times we've casted. God.
The love shuts off at like 7 p.m.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're getting to that point. We're gonna mess up our hair a little bit, have some crazy Einstein look going on. It's been quite a day, and now we're going into game 3. You know, Swim, I gotta say, at least if you're gonna do something and you're gonna be known for it, and in this case, Swim taking a long time for finishing his games, do it right. And Swim is doing it right. Swim's like, I will not only take a while to finish my games and figure out what moves are going to be, I'm going to play more games than everybody else in the tournament because I take so long. This is great. This is good stuff. And this is where us as casters, anyways, people might complain, you know, when people take a little while to go through their turns and figure out what their moves are. But we love this. We live for this. We got extra games we can cast now. We're still here being able to bring you guys some awesome, if that wasn't awesome what we just saw, if that was not awesome what we just saw with that game completely pull out of nowhere from Swim, I don't know what is. This is some awesome Legends of Runeterra content, and we're super happy to be here bringing you guys matches like this in the top years.
So that means next up we're going to have the Twisted Fate Ezreal versus the Shen Fiora, a matchup that we haven't seen. I don't think it'd be a stretch to say we've never actually seen this matchup, just because when Twisted Fate Ezreal was on top, you know, Shen Fiora wasn't nearly as popular as Scouts. It was around, but I don't know if we ever actually got to see this specific matchup on camera. I know that the lack of Ranger's Resolve doesn't give me a whole lot of hope for, you know, surviving a Riptide Rex, but we do have some hardier units in the Shen Fiora deck than we're used to in things like the Stalking Dragon. So, you know, it'll be an interesting one to see how it plays out. I think that the lack of ways to pop a barrier is going to be really bad for Swim going into this next game. As we had mentioned, Make It Rain is really the only thing that he can do for that. And that one, bit of a crapshoot. I don't want to put my tournament fate in the hands of a Make It Rain when we're in game 3 of a tiebreaker series. And I still have another match to go play after this. So, I mean, we could see some insane moments here. I'm sort of predicting with how intense this series has been that whoever goes on to Yotsuba, it's going to be a very quick 2-0, one way or the other. That's just going to be the fastest lightning match we've ever seen. Very anticlimactic end to an insane 6-game series between Cephalopod and Swim.
Yeah, and just an update on Swim. He's doing push-ups. He did push-ups.
So, do we know how many?
I don't know. I know it was a question on some form somewhere.
Yeah, okay, so fun fact. Here's the fun fact for you, actually. Kuma gave the players a fun fact form that we'll give to the casters so that they have something to talk about. And then Kuma forgot to give us the form. And one of the questions was, how many push-ups can Swim do?
I think the top answer, choose, there was nothing else. It was 20. And then everything was below that. So apparently it's just impossible. It's impossible for Swim to even fathom to do more than 20 push-ups.
I'm not going to lie. I have no idea how many push-ups I can do. Do you know the last time I tried to do a push-up? Yeah, me neither.
God, what, you don't work out, Boulevard? You need that body for casting,
I can tell you my bench and my squat, but I don't really do push-ups like that.
So, all right. We are starting game 3 here. All right. Woo! Swim versus Cephalopod. Game 3. Let's see who is able to take it home and finally advance to yet another shot at trying to get to day 2 here. We've already had, this is now the second chance for both of these players. Let's see who's able to make it.
All right, and we've got the Hush is pretty big. We had mentioned that earlier. It's just being able to get through those barriers pretty nice. Did Swim already mulligan his hand, or has he not even looked at his screen yet?
He's trying to stuffing his face so he actually has energy to play this game.
That's reasonable. I'm over here drinking water. There's no calories in water. There's no energy in water. I should be drinking more monsters.
Yeah, where are your monsters at? Whoa, hold on. You're slacking.
We have another tournament tomorrow, so
okay.
Saving it for that one.
Oh, and looks like they might have queued up the wrong decks there. Either that or somebody actually play anymore.
I'd be very hard pressed to imagine it was somebody doesn't want to play anymore.
I got to agree with you there. I think that both players at this point are highly invested in this last game here.
There's no way
So
you sit through those last 5 games then to go, "You know what? Actually, I decided I don't really wanna play anymore. I'm gonna go home," and just just surrender the game. I'm sure that there was some kind of
yeah,
issue. We'll let you guys get Okay, yeah, so we're just gonna jump right back into it.
here we go. All right, cool. So now again, Cephalopod and Swim starting game 3. Broken record. We'll see what Swim's mulligan is going to end up being
Oh, that's
here.
what yeah, Swim queued the wrong deck. We didn't even notice. That was his Lee
Oh,
Sin deck.
okay. See, he just loves that deck so
He
much.
forgot he won with it.
Yeah. God, it's not that bad. Come on. Oh man. So let's see. It looks like mulliganing the is that a word? Mulliganing?
Yeah.
We're gonna go with that. So he's mulliganing Ezreal, Yordle Grifter, and TF, opting to toss both of the champions here, which I do agree with. Generally, feel like Swim is going to want those a little bit later on in the game. Throw Beam, not bad either to go ahead and deal with some of the early units here, but actually going to go ahead and decide to keep the Yordle, Grifter, and TF. Maybe thinking again, we can go towards an early TF win con again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, SJW, let's talk about the Twisted Fate. There's no chance. There's no way that Twisted Fate
Yeah.
levels in this matchup. You have
Nope.
I know that there's not an insane amount of removal out of Cephalopod. You do have the 3 single combat and the 3 concerted strike, but the amount of challengers that kill a Twisted Fate on top of the complete lack of combat tricks on the side of Swim and just spells that he can play in combat. If you could Thermo Beam in combat, yeah, maybe we somehow get to a TF win con, but that one's completely off the table this time around.
Yeah, this is not a matchup where this TF will be leveling up. There's really no way to protect it. Parlay on turn 1 here. Thermo Beam and Parlay. Not gonna take it though. I don't know. Is
Yeah,
that like
this
too much thought
this makes
behind
sense
that?
because you wanna parlay it and then play your black market merchant in the same turn on turn 2.
Okay, okay. All right. So it looks like that is what Swim is gonna go ahead and set up. Yeah, I actually okay. I didn't see the black market merchant there, so that makes a lot more sense. Gonna get that plunder effect off. And already gonna get some of this resource generation online with the black market merchant.
Yeah, and I really like really early nabs against Demacia. As I mentioned, they've got a lot of high value, high cost units, and getting the if you get a 4 mana Screeching Dragon or like a 5 mana Genevieve, feels absolutely insane. I feel like one of the worst hits would, I mean, potentially be that Brightsteel formation, just because the chances that you ever actually end up playing it are pretty low. There's also some duds like this Greenglade Caretaker, just not going to do you a whole lot. Is at least one more body on the board, but that can also be translated and interpreted as more food for Fiora on the board, and there is the Greenglade
Uh,
Caretaker actually
got
going
the
to come
other.
out.
Well, I mean, on the bright side, there is one less Greenglade caretaker
That's true.
shenanigans where you just get blown out by a really strong Greenglade caretaker. But I do agree. I think that's one of the worst cards to pick. Just gonna go ahead and toss that one out there because it's not really a lot. Going for the attack here. See if we can get a trade on this Greenglade. Looks like Cephalopod is going to offer it up, so we're going to push through 1 damage.
Yeah, I think that Seth really doesn't want this black market merchant to hang around. Being able to get that cost reduction down onto multiple cards, absolutely a terrifying thing for Swim to have access to. But instead, I mean, this is just a floated turn 3. Maybe you can throw out this Dreadweight. Oh no, actually just going to be the Thermo Beam. Thought about snap firing it onto the Fiora,
Yeah.
kind of pulling it to the side, but I think you do play this every time. There's, as we had mentioned, no Ranger's Resolve coming out of this deck, so that's just going to be a dead Fiora. And Swim doing a really good job at holding the board so far. Cephalopod kind of low on cards, but this is where we start to see the turning point. There's a lot of high health units that you need Thermo Beam to kill, and there's only one of those left in the deck of Swim.
Yeah, honestly, this is looking decent for Swim though. Like, yeah, there is only one Thermo Beam left, but we do have 2 Yordle Grifters, so he is going to have a lot of to go ahead and kind of pump up his board a little bit, give him some blockers, things to challenge whatever Cephalopod plays, and more importantly, 2 Yordle Grifters to go ahead and set up a turn 8 Riptide, which he will have the attack token on turn 8. So I think that is very big here. I think we discussed it one of the other games where Swim actually ended up losing, and the attack token was on the side of Cephalopod. Was it the same matchup? I think we see the same matchup in the last game, the last match.
No, we didn't see this.
No, we didn't.
The TF Ezreal won game 1, so we didn't end
Oh,
up
that's
seeing
right.
it.
Okay, it was the Lee Sin against both
Yeah.
of them. Okay, so yeah, but still, going into that turn, having the attack token, I think, is going to be pretty big here. So we'll see if that's what Swim starts to go towards. The attack token for now with Cephalopod and getting the Screeching Dragon out, I imagine it's going to gobble something up here and use that Fury to grow just a little bit bigger, which is going to be unfortunate, but there's really nothing that Swim can do about it currently.
All right, we're at 3 out of 8.
Oh.
Let's talk about the Twisted Fate level up win condition. So, oh, no, there it goes. All of a sudden, it's out the window. There goes Twisted Fate. Dead to a Screeching Dragon. How unfortunate. Who could have seen this coming if only there were some sort of people outside the game who were spectating it who could tell us that this is not a realistic win condition that we could have expected. But woe is me, no such gentlemen exist. And I really thought we were going for the TF win con here, but I guess not.
Yeah, I don't know what world you're living in. But hey, I get it though. I get it. We have to go through every single possible play, and unfortunately, Twisted Fate not going to be that.
Maybe
play.
not every single possible play.
But yeah, there's a lot of bad plays. But Riposte, I want to go ahead and throw that out there. This card might come in handy later. Is in Swim's hand now as an option. Not sure really how he's going to utilize that. I imagine we won't see that come down until we're able to use it to protect something like a Riptide Rex. Seems like it's not really getting great value otherwise. And I mean, neatly enough, or kind of weird, it does actually work with this Green Glade Caretaker that was pretty much useless. So maybe we get some sort of interesting trade with the Riposte on the Green Glade Caretaker. We'll see.
I mean, yeah, that does suddenly bump it up to a 6 attack unit. Cephalopod only has one more attack turn between now and the Riptide Rex. He's only going to be able to attack on turn 7. So, I mean, Swim's going to be able to open with that card. And if he can find a second copy or even just the one, it'll probably be enough to get it done. But I think Cephalopod has to start going for some big developments in the next couple of turns to make sure that his board is going to be able to withstand that. And even if it does, I mean, like, Make It Rain TF follow-up isn't a bad play on the side of Swim on the following turn. Should be able to keep this all mostly under control and snatches a deny out of Cephalopod's deck. That could come up really big a little bit later on, but maybe not as much as you would expect in other matchups, mostly because the concerted strikes in single combats aren't as impactful in this matchup as they are in other ones, just because Swim's units are so small.
Yeah, I don't know. Deny still has the potential.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, still a great card, but
but I do agree, a little less impactful. I'd be curious to see how it's utilized later. Actually, that and the Riposte. I mean, these are two cards that both have the potential to swing things just a little bit, depending on what kind of transpires in combat. But for now, Cephalopod is starting to go wide. I'd like to see another unit if Cephalopod is going to kind of keep up here. And, that was one of my concerns going into turn 6. Cephalopod only having the Screeching Dragon and the Shen. Granted, two very good, a champion and a field. This Bright Steel now going to protect the Shen for this turn anyways, preventing it from potentially dying to something like Dreadway Deckhand, Make It Rain, although I don't really think that's exactly what Swim was going for. If we do get a Dreadway Deckhand with a Twisted Fate red card, that very well could be what Swim goes for next turn, as that will very nicely clean up the Bright Steel Protector and the Shen.
yeah, and if Cephalopod, goes for an open attack, then he's kind of just forfeiting his last attack turn prior to the Riptide Rex coming down, and it could full clear the board right here with only 4 cards left in hand. 3 cards left in hand now. I am not loving Cephalopod's chances going into this Riptide Rex turn, but we'll have to see how the attacks actually work out here. I think this Make It Rain still gets a fair amount of value, but I don't see a lot of reason not to fire it off next turn if Cephalopod just goes in for these attacks.
Yeah, I think you keep it. I mean, you're in a great spot right now. Swim is in a fantastic spot. He can, if there's an open attack, you make it rain. If there's no open attack and there's development, you absolutely destroy your opponent with a TF red card, and there's one less deny. So there's a very low probability Cephalopod has a response to either one of those options.
Even if Cephalopod has a deny, you just shove your own deny right back at him. Like, hey, I took this from you. I'm here to return it. Oops, I dropped both of our denies. Guess my spell resolves.
Wow. Oh, that's really bad. That's the one play around there that, wow, that's a very big deal for Swim. And that's actually going to set Cephalopod up beautifully going into turn 8 with the Riptide as well. I mean, everything will lose the buffs, of course, but Swim is going to be taking some damage here. And unfortunately, depending on how some of these attacks line up, the Make It Rain isn't going to be the greatest option here. Do you still just go with the TF to stun out this dragon, or possibly still red card?
I mean, the red card does still set up 3 units to be in range of the Make It Rain if you want to fire that off later this turn. The 8 mana is a little bit awkward. I mean, depending on what happens here, if we go for like a scout attack onto this Twisted Fate, we could see the Riposte just kill the Genevieve, and that does mean that the rest of the attacks are going to be a little bit awkward on the side of Cephalopod.
Yeah, a lot of different options here. Unfortunately, doesn't have the mana for Riposte and Make It Rain though, which is pretty crucial. That would have probably swung the turn in the favor of Swim here. And this might be the deny that we were just talking about. If that is deny, do you play your deny?
You have to. Because otherwise, I mean, either way, the Make It Rain to finish off the board is off the table unless you throw out the Make It Rain in response to the deny. But also, Cephalopod only has 3 mana. I think a single combat was a little more likely. And that's why we saw Swim kind of flick the warning shot saying, okay, if you want to kill my barrel in response, I'll just go ahead and deal 2 damage to your face then.
Oh, this is so interesting. It's a very difficult spot to be in. There's so many different plays. You have the Riposte here. We could play it even on the Green Glade. It'll trade with the Genevieve, but then you're basically out of any and all options for the rest of the turn. What I will say though is, we're worried about this turn and whether or not Make It Rain comes down or Riposte or whatever, deny. After this turn, Swim lives, and
Yeah.
Swim then heads into a beast of a Riptide turn.
Well,
Because
let's look at Swim's hand real quick and tell me how many units you see in there if his board
yeah.
does end up dying this turn to all these challengers.
Oh,
That's a pretty good one.
yeah, that's pretty good. The River Shaper lives, so we'll get a strike off, fortunately, but that's pretty big.
This
I
does
do.
mean though that most of Swim's board is going to die here. Because it did hit the Genevieve, we still kill the Screen Glade Caretaker. We then get to turn around and kill. I mean, we could go for the Yordle Grifter, then the Screeching Dragon gets to take on the Twisted Fate. And both players probably just going to lose their boards, but Swim has to commit the Riptide Rex into killing Cephalopods. And then, I mean, those 3 cards in hand are almost certainly going to be more useful than the 4 warning shots that we see in Swim's hand. But we could see Cephalopod struggle to kill this Riptide Rex through the Riposte.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned earlier, I felt like the Riposte was going to be saved for Riptide. I think that's a pretty big deal. I will say the turn that the Riptide comes down, because I imagine we're going to keep this 3 spell mana going into this next turn. We're not going to have the Riposte mana for the Riptide Rex the turn that it comes down. So it's going to depend on what Cephalopod has as, some sort of follower or champion to throw down here on turn 8. Although with this block, I feel like Swim might try to bait out some more units summoned here by Cephalopod before going for the Riptide.
I don't know if that's going to work. I think Cephalopod's pretty okay to just kind of pillar on this 7 or this 6/4 Screeching Dragon. Like, if Swim passes and I pass right back, and then I just smack you with a dragon.
What is that at? That is at
Ezreal?
5 out of 10. Never mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Riptide Rex wouldn't even level it.
Nope. So I don't even know if Swim can play the Riptide. I think he needs the extra targets.
I mean, if you throw down this Ezreal, you can throw a Mystic Shot at the Screeching Dragon, but at the end of the day, what is that really accomplishing? You don't play other Mystic Shots. You'd almost feel like you're playing towards an Ezreal top deck to try and finish that off. You do have the Riposte to go ahead and try and save it. So maybe the play is just like Ezreal, soften up the dragon, next turn, Riposte, Warning Shot, Riptide. But I don't know if Cephalopod's necessarily going to play into this one, because if we see Bright Steel Formation, we're still a turn early on.
Yeah. So this is what I thought, right? Swim
Yep.
pass back over. I totally expected this. And Cephalopod, I mean, yeah, sure. You want to attack for 6? Great.
Yep, there's the formation. So now the Riptide not going to get as much value, but I still think you have to play it and try and kill this Screeching Dragon.
Well, this gets the targets though, and that's the big deal, right?
Yeah, that's it. Whoa, actually just full on kills the Bright Steel Formation.
No way. Holy RNG.
These Riptides today have been absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I can't believe he just hit all of those. Swim, just smile.
I think single combat down. Oh man, there's still deny mana on the side of Swim as well. If there is something like a single combat to try and get value out of this dying Bright Steel Formation, it looks like that is going to be the case. There's also, Riposte to save it, but I mean, do you deny? to save this Riptide Rex? You still have Riposte to try and keep it alive and Pillar on it.
Ooh. I think you deny this. Or you could just riposte. Do you riposte and save the deny? Like, what do you value?
You could save the deny for the Ezreal because that is now your win con. As you had mentioned, this is going to be leveled. And I mean, with 3 warning shot and a pilfered goods in hand, that's what, 8, 9, 11 damage right there. I'm pretty sure Swim actually just takes this with the Ezreal.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, yeah, no need to even save the Riptide there. This Ezreal, it's going to take it.
And I mean, let's talk about how safe this Ezreal is. You have a riposte and a deny against a combat-based removal deck. Even concerted strikes in single combats probably aren't going to get through this. And every time one of my spell resolves, it actually takes me closer to killing my opponent. And at 13 life, I'm pretty sure Swim actually just has lethal. Warning shot. Each warning shot is 3.
That's 13 burst.
Yeah, 13 burst. That Swim just wins it. Swim's going to move on to meet Yotsuba in the second tiebreaker.
Oh my God. These 2 games, first the ridiculous elusive, and then followed up with the obvious, planned, calculated, Riptide onto the Brightsteel formation. We all knew that was coming. And this is going to be Gabe. Oh, wait. Oh, hold on.
It doesn't matter. He's got 13 burst.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The burst damage
fires everything off, and it could even just deny this to add insult to injury, but it's just going to play the riposte instead, and that means that these are just going to bounce off each other. You're going to fall down to 6. I'm going to fire off my 3 warning shots, and Swimstream going to be taking this one over. Cephalopod fell in the round robin to get us into these tiebreakers, but does pick up the tiebreaker. Yotsuba, I know you're rested, willing, and waiting, and Swim is coming for you just as soon as this life total hits 0. Cephalopod, well fought, well played, an insane series between 2 of Legends of Runeterra's top players, but only one of them is going to be able to move on, and this time it is Swimstream. Almost forgot his name there for a second.
Yeah, Swim taking it 2-1 there. Just production, if you want to go ahead and swap that over. Cephalopod did not win. I don't want anybody to think that that's the case. Yeah, so Swim actually going to go ahead and take it 2-1. That was... I gotta say that was probably the best series that we've seen so far. All right, so Swim, he may have faltered in the last match versus Cephalopod, but he does end up taking this one home. It was a hell of a match, and I am looking forward to Swim versus Yotsuba now. So we'll see what happens in that match. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell so you get notified when it goes live. But as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.